The 163rd edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been, there ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands King Rice the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good. Off the glass. Oklahoma calls timeout. But the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma. Been ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores.
With 20 seconds left to play, goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63, 62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Brent Brown looking. Throw away to Worthy. 35. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
Brown gets it into Williams. Comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebound. It's over. And how about the Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national dadgum champions.
And that's what it takes when you big time games. You got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Everybody, welcome to another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. For the first time in a long time, me and Anthony are in person as we are breaking down Carolina's dramatic, emphatic, but albeit important win, 67-65 last night at Miami. For those of you who have been following the football side of things, Anthony did test positive for COVID, so we kind of were staying away from each other for a little bit as he was overcoming the coronavirus. But now we're back in person. Going to talk a little Carolina basketball. Hopefully it don't make us sick because last night's performance was not great. I was hoping after the win over Notre Dame they would find a way to build off that performance, take a step in the right direction with their level of play on the court. They did not, despite winning the game. 20 more turnovers committed last night by the Tar Heels. They kept, which allowed an undermanned Miami team without their best player, Chris Lykes, not only to stay in the game, but build a 10-point lead in the second half before a ferocious rally by Carolina closed the deal to get their second ACC win on the road, or the second ACC win and the first ACC win on the road. And buddy, as I put in the recap, it wasn't pretty, but it's a win. And for Carolina, that's all that matters is that you're winning.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they got to improve on. I mean, when you make one more field goal than you have turnovers in the game, that's something that, again, just cannot happen. Roy Williams talked in his post-game presser after the Notre Dame game about how important it was for that team not to turn the basketball over.
Yeah.
And that was a reason that they won the game. How they won this game, I couldn't tell you, because every time that they came down the floor, you were holding your breath that there was going to be another turnover. But, the guys that needed to step up when they did stepped up. I mean, this is, another reason why we keep hammering home the point that we need veteran guys on this team.
Yeah.
Because you look at the guys that stepped up and had the best performances in this game when it mattered. It was Leaky Black and Andrew Platek. Both guys now back-to-back games have hit game-winning shots. Yeah, I mean, if you thought that was going to happen in season, you should go play the damn lottery because you'd probably win because no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
But it's that's the thing is that you're starting to see some of these guys step forward. I mean, I don't know if you saw the post-game comments from Andrew Platek. That sounds like a leader, and This is a guy that before the season, if it was up to the fans, wouldn't even be on the roster. And this guy is stepping up, having a big year. Leaky Black, when they needed him to step up and play well, he had 4 threes last night. He came in having hit 3 threes the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, again, you're seeing certain guys that are stepping up and playing well. But there still are a lot of concerns because you're seeing guys that were expected to play well not play well. Not only is it the freshmen, Caleb Love and R.J. Davis really struggling, especially with perimeter shooting, but Garrison Brooks just does not look the same. When they showed him on the sidelines last night, he just didn't look like he was in the right state of mind. And, I don't know if maybe this is just something that, COVID has gotten to him or whatever. This whole time has gotten to him. But, he doesn't look like the same Garrison Brooks that we saw a year ago. But the good news is that he's got guys that are able to help him, help pick things up around him to help Carolina still win these games. But, you're talking about a Miami team that was without three of their contributors, and they still had a chance to win this game. And for most of the second half, you thought they were going to win the game. That's not a position that Carolina needs to be in if they're wanting to get back to where we expect them to be. Granted, that's not going to happen this season, but if this team wants to make the NCAA tournament, they have got to start putting together better wins, because I don't know if this is a team that's going to be able to get 1, 2, maybe even 3 really big wins on their resume, because you look, what are the opportunities in the ACC? One of them's coming up against Clemson, but that's probably, if you had to say right now, that might be the best team in the ACC. We don't know if Duke's ever going to play basketball again. They may just shut down the entire program, and Kay's career might be over at this rate. Then Virginia, we have no idea. If they play anywhere near as good as they have defensively the last couple of years, this offense is going to be a disaster in those games. So Carolina's got to start piling up wins and making it look convincing if they want to be able to make the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that, we're sitting here this first full week of January, we're talking about building a resume for the tournament, which normally you're not having to do that with Carolina, but that's the position we're in right now. And look, last night wasn't pretty, but you got a big game from Leaky Black, 16 points, 6 of 9 from the field, 4-4 from behind the 3-point line, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. He's even started to facilitate the offense a little bit in the half court, which is something that we've kind of wanted to take the responsibility away from him. But I think, as we've just learned with Caleb Love and R.J. Davis, someone else has got to handle the ball for Carolina to have any success at running their offense. Daron Sharp didn't have a great night from the field, 4-12 from the field, but 12 points, 16 more rebounds. I thought he was a difference for the game on the interior, because Garrison Brooks just isn't the same guy that he was last year. He's not the guy we thought he was going to be. And they took away Armando Bacot last night. He wasn't very effective. Kerwin Walton, the move to put him in the starting lineup has paid off. 13 points, 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 7 from behind the 3-point line. And I think for Carolina is that, last night, as you mentioned, 20 turnovers, only made 21 field goals, but 9 of 20 from 3. This is now back-to-back games where a team that we don't think can shoot the ball, they've shot relatively well from behind the 3-point line. And like the Notre Dame game, they were down 57-50, and they finished the game on the defensive end. And I think it's something that we've talked about early on in the season, and after that loss to Georgia Tech, we kind of wondered about, can this team be good defensively? I think that game showed they don't have a choice. They've played much better individual and team defense their last 2 games. There's no reason. That's a big reason why they've gotten those 2 wins.
I guess. I don't know. They struggled against Notre Dame defending the 3. This game, they did a much better job defending the 3, but driving the lane was way too easy for most of the game. They did a good job, as you mentioned, of locking down when they had to. But they need to be able to avoid getting down to some of these teams. Not every team is going to be like Miami and Notre Dame. These are teams that are really struggling right now. They've had struggles late in games throughout the year. When you get, to that back half of the schedule with teams like we just talked about, like Virginia Tech, like Duke, those types of teams, those teams are not going to struggle late in games like these teams are. So you've got to be able to at least keep the game, closer than that, potentially keep the game tied, or carry leads into those situations. But you really got to hand it to them, because what was the thing that we talked about in the game against Georgia, after the game against Georgia Tech? This team was just really young, and they were going to struggle to finish games. Well, the last 2 games, they haven't. They've had guys that have stepped up and made plays when they've had to, and they've found a way to win both games. And, when you talk about the reason that they're able to, ratchet things down on defense and step up their game late, it's got to start with Daron Sharp. This guy is just, all he does is clean glass. That is everything that he puts into his game late. And Carolina at this point, they've needed him to step up and play this well. I mean, again, even late in the game last night, Garrison Brooks came up, hit 2 big free throws and then forced a turnover. But it was still, every time that there was a rebound to be had, it was Day'Ron Sharpe coming down with the rebound. So, I think that's the group that we're looking at right now is the guys that are stepping up and that this team's probably going to run through for the rest of the season. It's going to be Day'Ron Sharpe, Leaky Black, and Kerwin Walton, and maybe Armando Bacot gets sprinkled back in there. But I mean, that's probably what you're looking at this point for this team. And I don't think that's a situation that we thought we were going to be in, especially with Kerwin Walton being up there. I mean, he has been fantastic the last 2 games. He's giving Carolina the type of shooting that they need on the perimeter. And I'm glad to see that Roy is not, one of those guys that looks into recruiting rankings and says, look, this is, a guy that was ranked outside of the top 100. He still needs time to grow. Roy looks at this guy and says, look, this guy can shoot the ball right now. We desperately need shooters, and he's going to play a big role.
Yeah, he's making it pay off for all the headache and troubles we went through when he was deciding to come play for Carolina. As well, remember how crazy his recruitment was back in the spring. It's now paying off. It's a big reason why Carolina went after him, because he's their best perimeter player on the floor or on this team, and it's really not even close. Got to talk about Andrew Platek because he hit the game-winning shot, 7 points, 3 of 6 from the field. But I want to talk about, you mentioned the stuff he said in the post game was what you need to hear from a veteran presence in the locker room, a guy who's been here for 4 years. He was on that 2018-2019 that had a lot of success and made the Sweet 16, so he knows how to win in this league. But I think for him, he has no choice but to become a leader, because we always knew that wasn't Garrison Brooks. And with Garrison Brooks' play this year, no one's going to follow him because his play doesn't warrant following him and being a leader. But Andrew Platek does all the little things that you need to do to win. He plays hard mainly on defensive, and he's always in the right spot. He doesn't take bad shots. And then, for him to make that shot to win the game for Carolina, this is back-to-back games that 2 guys have made shots for the Tar Heels to win games, and I've been highly critical of in Leaky Black and Andrew Platek. And we've seen the kind of result it had for Leaky Black where his game's starting to elevate. So maybe this is a big step for Andrew Platek to become a bigger part for this team, even if it's him still coming off the bench.
Yeah, well, I think that's just the role that he's going to be in at this point. I mean, I think last night you probably found your starting lineup, because even though R.J. Davis wasn't great out of the gate, the offense still started about as hot as they have throughout the season. Unless you're wanting to put Andrew Platek out there and let Leaky Black bring the ball up, which is something that, again, we were talking about in the preseason. Yeah, we're doing everything possible to avoid that. Now, that might be the best option for this team, is to allow Leaky Black to bring up the ball. And with the way that Andrew Platek has played, I mean, look, I think he's a little bit different even than Leaky, in the fact that he has not really played bad in a game this year. There is not a game that I've looked at and said, okay, Andrew Platek is killing this basketball team. The thing is look, you're looking for a guy that's going to come out and play with, effort on the defensive end, going to be able to prevent the dribble drive a little bit better than some of the other guys out there. That's Andrew Platek. And, again, he steps up late when they needed him to step up. That is a really tough shot that he hit. Yeah. That is not a shot that any other year of his career he makes. He would have easily missed that. It would have been blocked. Something would have happened there. So for him to be able to have the awareness to not only drive baseline, to know where the out-of-bounds line was, stay in bounds, get the shot up, was just amazing. And, again, there were some people that were saying, Day'Ron Sharpe was open down low. He could have bounced past it to him. We know how this team works this year with passing. That ball probably would have been stolen, and Miami would have hit a half-court buzzer beater or something like that. We know that's probably what would have happened. So he made the right decision. And, yeah, again, I said it a little bit earlier. You're seeing the veteran guys step up and take on even bigger roles than they were expected, sort of like what we saw from Brandon Robinson his last 2 years on campus, where that wasn't necessarily the role that they were brought in for. But right now, this team needs them to step into those roles, and you're seeing it, and that's going to allow them to win games like this. I mean, look, this is a game that last year they don't win.
Yeah.
They would have lost this game easily. So you really have to commend the guys that are stepping up and playing well. And again, we said in the preseason, this is Andrew Platek is a guy that received a ton of criticism. There were a lot of people that were like, look, we're just ready to move on from him. There were some people hoping he would transfer in the offseason. And this guy is now a big part of what this team does. He's,